You have been taught a great lie, a deception that has kept you in lack and struggle. You believe that money is something you must chase, something you must labor and strive for in the outer world. This very belief is the barrier that stands between you and your abundance. There is a principle, a divine law, that when understood, reverses this entire outward struggle. It is not about attracting something from without, but about awakening to a certain activity of consciousness that operates as the very substance of supply itself. I want to reveal to you the nature of this inner activity, this specific adjustment in your awareness that allows the infinite resources of the universe to flow into your experience without this exhausting effort you have come to accept as normal. Stay with this, for what you are about to hear may change your relationship with supply forever. For your entire life, you have been operating under a fundamental misconception, one that has directed all your efforts, your anxieties, and your strategies concerning supply. This is the core of the illusion, the conviction that money, abundance, and security are external objectives to be hunted, captured, and secured. You see it as a target on the horizon, and so you spend your days running toward it, devising plans to seize it, and living in fear that you might not reach it in time. This entire framework, this worldview of the chase, is the very activity that perpetuates the sense of separation from what you seek. It is the great lie of outward pursuit. Consider the simple, daily evidence of this struggle. You wake up, and immediately your mind begins its calculations. You assess the bills against the bank balance. You project your energy against the demands of the day, all with the underlying goal of acquiring, of securing, of getting. You go to your job or your business, and while your hands are busy with tasks, your mind is occupied with the ledger. How much will this bring? What will that cost? Where is the next payment coming from? Your conversations, your worries, even your dreams at night are colored by this relentless narrative of pursuit. You are like a person standing on the shore, desperately grasping at the waves, trying to pull the entire ocean toward you, only to find your hands empty and your strength spent. The ocean cannot be captured that way. It can only be entered, surrendered to, and allowed to support you. This exhausting effort is not the natural order of supply. It is the symptom of a consciousness that believes it is separate from its source. When you believe you are a solitary individual in a vast, competitive universe, forced to wrestle your good from an unwilling world, you are engaging in a form of idolatry. You are worshiping the effect, the currency, the job, the investment, while turning your back on the cause. You are praying to the wave and ignoring the ocean. This outward striving is, in fact, a declaration of lack. It is a continuous affirmation that says, I do not have, therefore I must struggle to get. And the universe, which operates on principle, faithfully responds to this prayer by perpetuating the condition of not having, of always needing to get. The truth that shatters this illusion is that the substance of all things, including what appears as money, is not a physical object, but a spiritual essence. It is the living, intelligent substance of the universe itself, the very fabric of being. This substance is not scarce, it is infinite. It is not distant, it is the ground upon which you stand. It is the activity of the divine consciousness, and it is forever expressing itself, forming itself, and pouring itself forth. Your difficulty is not that this substance is absent from your life. Your difficulty is that you have been trained to look for its manifestation in the wrong direction. You are looking to the world of effects, to the already formed, and trying to manipulate it, when the real work is in the realm of cause, in the invisible realm of consciousness. Therefore, the transition from poverty to abundance, from struggle to flow, is not a transition of circumstances first. It is a transition of consciousness. It is a radical shift from being the pursuer on the shore to being the swimmer in the sea. It requires a profound and disciplined withdrawal of your faith from the external, objective world of markets and economies and jobs, and a reinvestment of that faith in the unseen, ever-present, and infinitely resourceful activity of the one divine mind. This is not a passive state of hoping or wishing. It is an active, dynamic, and demanding internal practice. It is the practice of stilling the frantic mind that is always calculating and fearing. It is the practice of turning within, past the noise of your personal desires and anxieties, to listen. In that quietness, you are not listening for a plan on how to get money. You are listening for the presence of itself. You are abiding in the conscious recognition that your very awareness is a form of this substance, that your life is an expression of this life, and that your identity is one with this infinite source. As you persist in this practice, a recalibration occurs. The frantic energy of pursuit begins to dissolve, replaced by a quiet, unshakable certainty. You are no longer a beggar at the door of life. You are a conscious center of divine expression. And from this position of unity, you find that your actions in the outer world are no longer driven by desperation, but are inspired, directed, and empowered from within. You are guided to the right opportunity. You are given the right idea. You are connected to the right people. The supply was never the problem. The state of consciousness that could not recognize or receive, it was the only barrier. This recognition that the struggle is an illusion born of misdirected focus leads us directly to the foundational truth, the principle of inner supply. It is here that we move from the problem to the solution, from the outer effect to the inner cause. The principle is this: all that appears in our experience as form, as substance, as supply, has its sole origin in the invisible realm of consciousness. It is not that consciousness creates supply as a potter molds clay. It is that consciousness is the very substance itself, taking form as our experience. The abundance you seek is not a thing to be created, but a reality to be recognized. It is the unceasing, outpouring activity of the one divine life. And your individual consciousness is not separate from this activity. It is a localized point of its expression. To understand this, is to revolutionize your entire approach to life. You begin to see that the financial anxiety, the business problem, the feeling of lack, these are not solid, immovable realities. They are shadows cast by a specific activity of thought, a specific posture of the soul. They are the symptoms of a consciousness that has turned outward, believing itself to be a creator separate from its source, and therefore perpetually in a state of need. The moment you shift your attention from the shadow to the substance, from the outer condition to the inner activity, you are applying the principle. This is not a metaphysical theory to be believed, but a spiritual law to be demonstrated as concrete and reliable as the law of gravity. Let this become practical in your daily life. Consider the common experience of worry over a specific bill or financial obligation. The conventional mind, trapped in the illusion of outward pursuit, immediately begins its frantic calculations. It scans memory for resources. It projects fearful futures. It tightens with anxiety. This very activity of thought is a prayer to the God of lack. It is affirming the power and reality of the problem. Now, apply the principle of inner supply. Instead of engaging with the shadow, the bill, the number, the deadline, you turn completely away from it. You turn within. You become still. You do not beg for money to pay the bill. That would be to remain within the framework of the problem. Instead, you acknowledge the presence of the one substance, the infinite resource, the all-sustaining life. You consent to its reality. You affirm that this very consciousness that you are is one with that infinite source, and that it is now expressing itself, forming itself, as the specific form of supply required. This is not magic. It is metaphysics. You are not manipulating a universe. You are aligning yourself with its inherent nature. Another example. You are faced with a business that seems stagnant, or a career that offers no visible path forward. The old consciousness would urge you to force something, to push, to manipulate people and circumstances, to strive with great human effort. But you, understanding the principle, do the opposite. You withdraw your frantic human planning. You go into the silence. You acknowledge that the same infinite intelligence that orchestrates the galaxies knows the need and knows the perfect fulfillment. You rest in the truth that this intelligence is your intelligence, that its resources are your resources. You release the problem from the realm of personal power and place it in the realm of divine activity. Then, and this is crucial, you become receptive. You listen, and an idea will come. It may be a simple, gentle nudge to make a phone call you had not considered. It may be a sudden inspiration for a new approach. It may be a sense of peace that allows you to see an opportunity that was always there but was obscured by your anxiety. This is the flow. This is the demonstration. The phone call leads to a new client. The inspiration opens a new door. The peace allows for clear, wise action. The supply appears, but it did not come from where you were looking. It unfolded from within, through the channel of a consciousness that had become quiet and receptive enough to let it through. The money, the opportunity, the solution, was never not present. It was always present as unformed substance in the realm of cause. Your work was not to create it, but to provide the form of consciousness, the clarity, the peace, the faith that would allow it to take shape in your world as visible, tangible supply. The principle is always operating. Your demonstration is in your conscious union with it. This conscious union with the principle is not a passive state of hope. It is an active, dynamic, and continuous activity of conscious awareness. It is the very heart of the demonstration, the specific inner work that replaces the outer struggle. To understand that supply is spiritual substance is one thing. To become the conscious vehicle for its expression is the transformation itself. This activity is not thinking about God, nor is it affirming truths in the hope they will become real. It is the direct, present, moment recognition that your own awareness is the very place where the formless becomes form, where the infinite becomes specific, where the divine activity takes shape as your experience. Your awareness is not a bystander to this process. It is the very ground of its happening. This means that every moment, regardless of the outer picture, is an opportunity to engage in this creative activity. The bill on your desk, the empty space in your checking account, the silent phone. These are not realities to which you must react. They are merely pictures on a screen. The real activity is happening in the projecta, which is your state of consciousness. When you feel the cold grip of fear about a financial situation, the old man would have you stare at the problem, analyze it, and wrestle with it. But now you understand that the feeling of fear is not a signal to look outward, but a signal to go deeper inward. The fear is a cloud obscuring the sun of your true consciousness. The work is to turn your attention away from the cloud and to abide in the awareness of the sun. Let this become practical. You are sitting at your desk, and the anxiety about a business transaction arises. The mind wants to spin tales of loss and failure. This is the critical moment. Instead of following that thought, you stop. You consciously withdraw your attention from the drama of the transaction. You close your eyes if you must. You feel the anxiety as a physical sensation, but you do not give it a story. You then bring your attention to the feeling of life itself, the simple, undeniable fact that you are conscious, that you are aware. You acknowledge, in that moment, this awareness that I am is not anxious. This awareness is the very substance of intelligence and peace. It is one with the infinite resource. It does not know lack. You are not repeating words. You are sinking into the truth of your own being. You are performing the activity of conscious awareness. Another example, you are about to enter a negotiation or a situation where you feel your supply is at stake. The temptation is to go in armed with strategies, defenses, and a desperate need to get. But you understanding this activity, prepare differently. You take a few moments in the car or in a quiet room. You do not rehearse your demands. You still the mind. You become aware of the silence behind the noise. You acknowledge that the same consciousness in you is in the person you are about to meet. You recognize that the outcome is not dependent on your personal cleverness, but on the harmonious activity of the one mind expressing itself through this situation. You go into the meeting not as a beggar, but as a conscious center of divine activity. Your words are then not born of fear, but of inspiration. Your presence is not one of lack, but of integrity and peace. This state of consciousness becomes the magnet, the organizing power that arranges the outer circumstances for a harmonious outcome. This activity must become as natural and continuous as breathing. It is not a technique you use in emergencies. It is a new way of living. While you are washing dishes, you can be conscious that the life flowing through your hands is the same substance as your supply. While you are walking, you can be aware that the intelligence guiding your steps is the same intelligence guiding your financial affairs. You are not trying to change anything in these moments. You are simply abiding in the conscious recognition of what is eternally true. You are aligning the focal point of your personal awareness with the infinite field of divine substance. From this aligned state, your actions in the world are transformed. You are not laboring to make money. You are expressing the fullness of your being, and the forms of supply naturally follow. The idea for a new service, the inspiration for a creative project, the impulse to connect with a certain person. These come as spontaneous impulses from this aligned state. They are the form that the formless substance takes when it flows through a clear and receptive channel. The effort is not in the outer doing, but in the inner maintaining of this conscious connection. The outer doing then becomes a joyful, inevitable expression, utterly devoid of the strain and fatigue that comes from believing you are the personal creator of your own supply. This conscious alignment, this continuous activity of abiding in awareness, reveals a truth so profound it can shatter the very foundation of your earthly struggles. It is the truth of your identity. You are not a physical being, separate from your source, trying to attract abundance into your life. Your true identity is one with the source itself. You are not a drop of water trying to get to the ocean. You are the ocean, appearing for a moment as a wave. The sense of a separate I that worries, plans, and strives is the final and most persistent illusion. When this sense of separation dissolves, even for a moment, the entire paradigm of lack and pursuit collapses. You are not a seeker of supply. You are the very substance of supply, individualized as your being. This is not a philosophical concept to be debated, but a living reality to be realized in the depths of your soul. The moment you feel, I am that infinite consciousness, I am that divine substance, the chase is over. The frantic energy you once expended on getting is replaced by a quiet, unshakable knowing of being. Your work is no longer to acquire, but to acknowledge. You are not building a connection to God. You are unveiling the truth that you are that connection, that you can no more be separated from the source of your supply than a sunbeam can be separated from the sun. Its nature is your nature. Its infinity is your inheritance. Let this truth move from abstraction into the concrete moments of your day. Consider the moment you receive an unexpected bill. The old self, the I, that feels separate and vulnerable, immediately contracts in fear. It sees itself as a small entity about to be diminished by a larger, hostile force. But now you pause. You turn from the paper and you go within. You ask, not with words, but with a deep, intuitive reaching. Who is this I that is afraid? What is its nature? In the stillness, you may sense that the fearful I is a collection of thoughts, memories, and sensations, and behind it, or rather, as the very space in which it appears, is a vast, silent, aware presence. That presence is what you truly are. It does not know fear because it is complete. It does not know lack because it is all. From that place of identity, you look at the bill. It has not changed, but your relationship to it has been utterly transformed. It is no longer a threat to your survival, but merely a form appearing in the infinite field of your consciousness. From this position of power and peace, the right action arises, not from panic, but from principle. You are guided to the solution because you are no longer identified with the problem. Take this into your professional life. You walk into a room to ask for a raise, to pitch a client, to seek an opportunity. The separate I goes in with a posture of need. It is a beggar, and its energy, no matter how well disguised, communicates a subtle desperation. It is trying to get something from someone else. But when you have touched upon your true identity, you enter that same room from an entirely different place. You know, I am not here as a limited person seeking validation or resources from another limited person. I am the one life meeting with itself. You speak, but the words are imbued with the authority of your being, not the anxiety of your persona. You are not trying to extract value. You are expressing the inherent value that you are. People may not understand this consciously, but they feel it. They respond to the power, the peace, and the lack of agenda. They are not being manipulated. They are being met at the level of soul. And the transaction that occurs is harmonious, right? And often exceeds the expectations of the separate self. This shift in identity is the master key. It is the final relinquishment of the burden of being the sole author and sustainer of your life. You are not the gardener desperately trying to make the plants grow. You are the soil, the rain, and the sunlight in which growth naturally occurs. Your responsibility is to maintain the clarity of your channel, to keep the awareness free from the weeds of fear and separation. The specific forms, the money, the opportunities, the solutions will emerge from the ground of your own being with a rightness and a timing that the personal mind could never orchestrate. You will find yourself in the right place at the right time, not because you calculated it, but because you are the consciousness that is the right place and the right time. You will have the right idea, not because you strained to invent it, but because you are the intelligence from which all ideas flow. This is the effortless attracting. It is not an action you perform. It is a state of being you inhabit. It is the natural consequence of a life that has remembered its name. This remembrance of your true name, this abiding in the consciousness of oneness, is not sustained by a single, fleeting moment of revelation. It is maintained through a dedicated and gentle practice, the practice of inner listening. This is the practical discipline that bridges the gap between the glorious glimpse of truth and its continuous demonstration in your daily affairs. It is the active, daily cultivation of the soil of consciousness so that the seeds of infinite possibility may take root and flourish. Inner listening is not listening for a voice. It is the act of becoming still enough to hear the silent hum of divine activity itself, the ceaseless flow of intelligence and substance that constitutes reality. This practice is the direct antidote to the noise of the world, the clamor of fear, and the relentless calculations of the personal mind. The world screams of lack, of danger, of competition. The personal mind, conditioned by a lifetime of separation, echoes this scream in an endless internal monologue of worry and strategy. Inner listening is the conscious decision to turn down the volume on that entire broadcast. It is not a fight against the noise. It is a gentle, firm turning of the attention toward a different frequency altogether, the frequency of silence, of peace, of pure being. In this silence, nothing is being said, but everything is known. In this quiet, you are not receiving information. You are being recalibrated to your source. Let this become the most practical part of your day. You do not need to retreat to a mountaintop. The moment you feel the familiar tightening in your chest, the knot of anxiety in your stomach about a financial matter, that is your signal. Instead of following the thought down its fearful path, you stop. You close your eyes if you can. You feel the physical sensation of the anxiety without labeling it or fighting it. You simply notice it. Then, you shift your attention from the sensation to the space in which the sensation is occurring. You listen to the silence behind the noise. You are not waiting for an answer to your problem. You are, in fact, letting go of the problem entirely. You are consenting to the presence of a peace that surpasses the mind's understanding. You are, in that moment, practicing the presence of God. Another example, you are faced with a decision that seems to have significant financial implications. The old way would be to make lists of pros and cons, to project outcomes, to seek advice from others. There is a place for reason, but it must not be the master. Before you engage the machinery of the intellect, you first must go into the silence. You sit with the decision. You present it not as a problem to be solved, but as a situation to be held in the light of consciousness. You listen. In the quiet, a subtle knowing may arise. It is not a loud voice, but a gentle inclination. It is a feeling of rightness or a sense of peace about one path and a feeling of contraction about another. This is the divine intelligence, your intelligence guiding you. The decision that emerges from this place will be in harmony with the entire universe. and its outcomes will reflect that harmony, often in ways your personal mind could never have foreseen. This practice must become as natural as breathing. While you are walking, you can listen to the silence between the sounds of the traffic. While you are washing your hands, you can feel the life in them and listen to the silent truth of your being. You are not doing this to get anything. You are doing it to be in alignment with what you are. The cumulative effect of this practice is a profound transformation of your entire life. The frantic need to know the future, to control outcomes, to secure your own safety begins to fall away. You develop an inner gyroscope, a stability that is not shaken by outer conditions. A check may be delayed, a client may say no, the market may fluctuate, but the center of your being, anchored in the silence, remains unmoved. And from this place of unwavering stillness, you find that your actions are inspired, precise, and powerful. You are guided to make the phone call, to write the email, to take the risk, but it is done without the sweat of personal effort. It is done with the ease of a leaf turning toward the sun. This is the effortless attracting. It is the natural, inevitable result of a consciousness that has become a clear, receptive vessel through which the infinite can pour itself forth into form as the specific supply for every need. The ultimate fulfillment of this entire journey is not merely the appearance of a sum of money or the resolution of a financial crisis. It is the living demonstration of the unseen law. This demonstration is the tangible, visible evidence in your outer world that proves the inner principle is not a theory, but a functioning reality. It is where the rubber meets the road. Your demonstration is the specific, individual proof that consciousness is cause, that your identity is one with the source, and that inner listening aligns you with an infinite and intelligent flow of substance that must, by its own nature, take form. This is not about hoping or believing. It is about knowing through experience. It is the fruit that appears on the tree, confirming that the roots are deep and the sap is flowing. This demonstration often comes in ways that the personal, calculating mind could never have orchestrated. The human mind, steeped in the illusion of outward pursuit, plans in straight lines. It seeks to force a specific result through sheer effort and will. But the flow of infinite substance moves in curves and circles, connecting dots you did not even know existed. Your demonstration may not arrive as the exact check you were visualizing. It may arrive as a sudden opportunity that renders the bill irrelevant. It may come as a chance meeting with someone who offers you a solution you had not conceived. It may appear as a creative idea that unlocks a new stream of income you never anticipated. The form is secondary. The proof is in the undeniable and often unexpected fulfillment of the need, arriving with a sense of grace and rightness that feels like a miracle, but is, in fact, the natural operation of a spiritual law. Let this become concrete in your understanding. You have been practicing the stillness, abiding in the consciousness of oneness, and you face a situation where a specific amount of money is required by a specific date. The old man would have exhausted himself, sending out resumes, begging for loans, selling possessions in a panic. But you, having turned within and listened, feel a profound sense of peace. You are not idle, you are attentive. Then an impulse comes. It feels quiet but firm. It tells you to call an old acquaintance, not to ask for anything, but simply to connect. During that conversation, they mention a project they are working on, and they feel compelled to ask for your help, offering a fee that is exactly what you require. This is a demonstration. The personal mind did not arrange this. It was guided from a higher level of intelligence, and you were the instrument because your consciousness was clear and receptive. Another example, you are building a business, and you hit a wall. Growth has stalled. The conventional wisdom says to pour more money into advertising, to push harder, to strain. But you, knowing the law, go into the silence. You release the problem. You acknowledge that the same infinite intelligence that built the universe can build this business, for it is the same substance. In the quiet, an idea forms. It is a simple adjustment to your service, a way of adding more value with less effort. It comes not as a strained thought, but as an inspired download. You implement it almost effortlessly. A week later, a client arrives, referred by someone you barely remember, and they sign a contract that dwarfs your previous expectations. This is not a lucky break. This is the unseen law of mind in action, demonstrating itself through you, because you provided the consciousness of peace and expectancy instead of the consciousness of force and fear. The consistency of your demonstration is the measure of your abiding in the truth. It is not that you will never face challenges. It is that the challenges will cease to be threats and become instead opportunities to witness the law in action. A delayed payment is no longer a crisis. It is a call to go deeper into the silence and witness the creativity of the infinite. A closed door is not a failure. It is a divine redirect, steering you toward a door you could not see. Your life becomes a continuous, unfolding revelation. You begin to see the invisible hand arranging circumstances, connecting people, and providing ideas. You stop being the anxious architect of your own life and become the joyful witness to a grander design in which you are both a cherished part and the whole. You live with a sense of awe and certainty, knowing that the substance is always flowing, the intelligence is always guiding, and your only work is to maintain the purity of your consciousness, to keep the channel open, and to watch with gratitude as the unseen becomes seen, the formless becomes form, and your every need is met from the infinite riches of the kingdom within. You have been lied to about the entire nature of your existence. Everything you believe about your problems, your lacks, and your limitations is a profound misperception, a shadow cast upon the wall of reality. You are not a separate entity struggling in a world of other separate entities. That is the great illusion, the hypnotic dream from which you are now being called to awaken. This is not a teaching to add to your collection of beliefs. It is a fiery revelation, a direct impartation of truth that demands the complete and utter abandonment of the mental constructs you call your life. We are not here to improve the human scene. We are here to dissolve it in the light of a single, supreme, and undeniable fact. What you will discover in these moments is the one thing that has always been present, the very fabric and substance of your being, patiently awaiting your recognition. It is the end of seeking and the beginning of knowing. It is the quiet, thunderous reality that renders every fear powerless and every question obsolete. If your heart has heard this call, then you must make this journey a sacred duty. Commit to this awakening by subscribing to this channel, making your presence here a vow to your own unfolding. Confirm your readiness by commenting the number 1, symbolizing the one truth, the one life, and the one moment of now in which all freedom is found. We begin by confronting the central, most pervasive lie, the belief that you are an isolated self, a fragile capsule of skin and bone and thought, navigating through a world of other separate capsules, each competing for safety, for survival, for a fragment of something called happiness. This is the foundational error, the primal misperception that generates the entire spectrum of human suffering, the loneliness, the conflict, the anxiety, and the ceaseless yearning. You look out upon a universe of objects, your job, your bank account, your relationships, your health, your very body, and you perceive them as external realities acting upon you, the central character. This is the dream. It is a convincing and compelling narrative, but a narrative nonetheless, and your unquestioned faith in it is the source of every limitation you experience. Consider the daily tremor of anxiety. You feel it as a personal possession, a dark cloud within your own mental sky, threatening your peace. You believe it is yours, born of your circumstances, tied to your past, forecasting your future. You try to manage it, to fight it, to understand it from within the very framework of the separate self that generated it. But what if that anxiety is not a personal flaw, but a signal, a dissonance arising from the belief in separation itself? It is the friction created when the wave believes it is separate from the ocean, trembling at the sight of other waves, fearing the shoreline, ignorant of the vast, supporting depth that is its true substance. Your fear of lack, the gnawing worry about finances or provisions, is not a sign of a failing in your human planning, though it masquerades as one. It is the shadow cast by the belief that you are a finite entity cut off from infinite source, that you must grasp and secure and hoard from a limited world. You are not in a universe of limited resources. You are entertaining a perception of limitation based on a false premise of identity. Look at conflict in a relationship. It appears so real, so tangible, the words spoken, the hurt felt, the distance between two people. From within the dream, you are right and they are wrong, or you are wounded and they are the aggressor. You strategize from the fortress of your separate self on how to fix, to change, to win, or to retreat. Yet this entire painful drama is staged on the set of duality. It requires two separate selves, two islands shouting across a chasm. The moment the recognition dawns, not intellectually, but as a living truth, that there are not two separate consciousnesses in conflict, but one consciousness appearing as two forms, the very ground of the conflict dissolves. The problem was never the other person's behavior. It was the foundational, unseen agreement that you are fundamentally apart from them. The healing is not in a better human interaction, though that may follow. It is in the shattering of the mirror of separation. Your very body, which you so intimately identify as yourself, is perceived through this veil. You praise it or criticize it. You feed it and fear for it. You call it mine. But this body you fret over is an appearance within your awareness, not the source of it. The headache seems to be in your head, the fatigue, your burden. You fight these sensations as personal invaders. Yet, are you the sensation, or are you the awareness in which the sensation is known? Are you the aching limb, or the silent, boundless space of knowing in which the ache arises and subsides? To believe you are the separate body is to be forever its victim, subject to its inevitable decay. To realize you are the awareness that appears within is to find an immortal peace that no physical condition can touch. This illusion is not a philosophical idea. It is the active architect of your daily hell. The moment a thought arises, I am not good enough. I am alone. I must protect myself. It derives all its power from the unexamined assumption that the I it refers to is a true, separate entity. The entire machinery of self-improvement, of building a better personal self, however noble it seems, often simply reinforces the prison. It is the self trying to fix the self, the dream character trying to alter the dream, never questioning the reality of the dream itself. The breakthrough comes not through building a brighter, more successful separate self, but in the startling, quiet revelation that the separate self is a mirage. There is no other to fear. There is no external world to conquer or placate. There is only the infinite, indivisible reality, appearing as all form, dancing as all movement, knowing itself as all being. Your daily life, with all its trivial tasks and profound challenges, is not the story of a person navigating a world. It is the one divine consciousness expressing, experiencing, and recognizing itself as you. The noise of the mind, the turbulence of emotion, the drama of circumstances, these are not your enemies. They are the call, urgent and relentless, to look not at them, but through them to the single, solitary, magnificent reality that has always been and will always be your only true being. This understanding brings us to a profound and necessary crisis, the end of seeking. We have been conditioned as inhabitants of the dream of separation to be seekers. Our entire life energy has been poured into the frantic, desperate activity of seeking security, seeking love, seeking peace, seeking God. We are told from childhood that fulfillment is out there, in the future, in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next spiritual technique, the next peak experience. We have turned our existence into a pilgrimage to a distant shrine, convinced that salvation lies at the end of a long journey of accumulation and self-betterment. This seeking is the very engine of the separate self. It is the proof of its perceived lack. To seek is to affirm with every fiber of your being that you do not already have, that you are not already complete, that what you are is insufficient and must be added to from some external source. Consider the exhausting pursuit of peace of mind. You buy the books, you attend the seminars, you practice the meditations, you follow the guru, all in pursuit of a state called peace. You measure your days by your proximity to it. A good day is one where you feel it. A bad day is one where you have lost it. You have turned peace into an object, a commodity to be acquired, and then, inevitably, protected from the vicissitudes of life. But peace pursued is peace perpetually postponed. The moment you make it an object of desire, you place it outside yourself in the future, and you appoint yourself as the anxious seeker who may or may not find it. The truth that shatters this weary search is that peace is not an experience that comes and goes. It is the very nature of the awareness in which all experiences, peaceful and turbulent, appear and disappear. You are not seeking peace. You are it, pretending to be a seeker. The frantic search is like a man riding a horse, galloping everywhere, looking for his horse, not realizing he is already mounted. The seeking must cease, not because you find the object, but because you awaken to the realization that you are the very substance you sought. Observe your daily hunt for validation and love. You look to your partner, your family, your friends, your social media followers to give you a feeling of worth, to reflect back to you an image of yourself that you can tolerate. A kind word uplifts you, a criticism devastates you. Your emotional world becomes a roller coaster controlled by the perceived opinions of others. This is seeking love as something external, something that can be given or taken away. It is the hunger of the imaginary self, feeling empty and seeking to be filled from the outside. But what if this ache itself is the pointer? What if this longing for unconditional love is not a sign that it is missing, but a haunting memory of what you inherently are? You are not a container that needs to be filled with love. You are the ocean of love itself. And the separate self is a tiny cup afraid of its own emptiness, dipping itself into the ocean and wondering where the water comes from. The end of seeking love is the falling away of the cup. It is the shocking, silent realization that you have never, for one instant, been separate from the infinite, all embracing love that is the core of existence. The search stops because the seeker dissolves into the sought. Even the so-called spiritual search, the most subtle and seductive of all, must come to a complete and final halt. You seek enlightenment, awakening, a mystical experience, a state of permanent bliss. You chase visions, you crave revelations, you collect initiations. But listen carefully. As long as you are seeking a spiritual state, you are affirming that you are not already one with the divine reality. You are perpetuating the separation under a new, holy guise. The most profound trap is to turn truth itself into a future goal. The message here is not to find a better object to seek, but to stop seeking entirely. It is to turn the attention not outward toward a promised attainment, but inward, backward, to the very source of the attention itself. Who is this one who seeks? What is its substance? Before the thought, I must find God, arises what is already effortlessly present. That which is present before the seeking begins is the only reality. Everything added to it is the dream. The end of seeking is not a passive resignation. It is the most dynamic, revolutionary act possible. It is the unconditional surrender of the entire project of self-improvement and acquisition. It means you stop trying to fix the dream character and instead wake up from the dream. Your daily life becomes the arena, not for seeking, but for recognizing. You do not seek patience in traffic. You recognize the infinite space of awareness that holds the frustration. You do not seek strength for your burdens. You abide as the unchanging presence to which the burdens appear. The energy that was once wasted in the frantic pursuit of 1,000 things is now freed, concentrated, and available. It becomes a silent, potent power that operates through you, not as you. Life is no longer a journey from lack to fulfillment. It is the constant, immediate revelation of the already fulfilled. The treasure is not at the end of the map. The map itself is drawn on the treasure. To stop seeking is not to arrive. It is to realize you were never, could never be, anywhere else but home. This recognition of the already present reality leads us into the very heart of what is, into the impersonal nature of all existence. This is perhaps the most challenging and liberating truth to embrace, for it calls for the complete relinquishment of personal ownership, personal credit, and personal blame. We have lived so deeply within the story of a personal I that we perceive the universe through that tiny, distorting lens. We believe our thoughts are our private creations, our feelings are our personal reactions, and our bodies are our personal property. We speak of my life as if it were a novel we are authoring, with ourselves as the central character whose will and decisions dictate the plot. This is the final fortress of the ego, the last stronghold of separation, the belief in a personal self as the center and cause of experience. Consider the simple act of a thought arising. I must remember to pay the bill, or what a beautiful sunset. Immediately, the sense of I claims it. I thought that. But investigate closely. Did you, as a personal chooser, summon that thought from nothing? Did you decide its exact wording, its timing, its arrival? Or did it simply appear spontaneously in the field of awareness? The thought of the bill may arise because you saw an envelope, a chain of associations set in motion by impersonal perception. The appreciation of the sunset arises when consciousness meets form and light. Where is the personal authorship? You are the witness of the thought, not its manufacturer. To believe you are the thinker is to take responsibility for a ceaseless, often chaotic, stream of mental events over which you have no ultimate control, and then to struggle to manage that stream. This is the root of so much mental anguish. To see thoughts as impersonal events, as clouds passing through the sky of your being, is to be freed from their tyranny. The compulsive, fearful, or obsessive thought loses its power when it is no longer claimed as mine, but is seen as an impersonal phenomenon appearing and dissolving in the vastness. Observe your emotions with this same scrutiny. Anger flares. The ancient automatic mechanism kicks in. I am angry. He made me angry. This is the personal story. But step back from the story. Feel the anger as a raw, surging energy in the body, a heat, a tension, a vibration. Where did it come from? Did you consciously construct it piece by piece? Or did it arise triggered by an event, an interpretation, a memory, all of which are themselves impersonal processes? The emotion is an impersonal weather pattern moving through the climate of your organism. The moment you say, I am angry, you solidify the weather into an identity, you become the storm. But if you can behold it as you would behold a thundercloud, impersonal, temporary, not self it can rage without destroying you. It arises, it plays out, it exhausts itself. You are the space for the storm, not the storm itself. This is not suppression. It is the highest form of clarity. The grief that seems to shatter you is not your personal possession. It is the universal heart's response to loss, flowing through this particular form. By not personalizing it, you allow it its full dignity and passage without being annihilated by it. This extends to what we call our abilities and or successes. The pianist plays a stunning sonata and the audience applauds the person. But ask the true artist in that moment of flow who is playing. The personal self, with its fears and desires, has vanished. There is only the music expressing itself through the instrument of the body. The great insight, the brilliant solution at work, did you craft it or did it dawn upon you? It dawned. It was given. It is an activity of the universal intelligence, the one creative principle, functioning through the particular set of conditions you call your mind. To claim it personally is to invite arrogance and its shadow, the fear of failure. To see it as an impersonal manifestation is to live in a state of humble gratitude and continuous wonder. Your very body, which feels so intimately personal, is an impersonal miracle of organized stardust, governed by laws of biology and chemistry you did not create, breathing air you do not own, sustained by a force you did not invent. Life itself is an impersonal force. It does not love you or hate you, it lives you. The sun shines impersonally. The rain falls impersonally. The law of gravity operates impersonally. The intelligence that grows a blade of grass and orchestrates the cosmos is one and the same, and it is not personal. It is divine, infinite, and impartial. Your greatest freedom lies in aligning with this impersonality. When perceived misfortune strikes, the loss of a job, an illness, a betrayal, the personal mind cries, "Why is this happening to me?" This question is the sound of suffering. The impersonal view sees only the unfolding of infinite cause and effect, the rearrangement of the one substance. It does not ask, "Why me?" but "What now?" It meets the circumstance without the added layer of a victim story. Conversely, when great good arrives, the impersonal view does not puff up with pride, but kneels in thanksgiving to the source of all blessing. You become a clear, open channel, a window for the impersonal light to shine through. Your life ceases to be a personal drama of triumph and tragedy. It becomes a sacred, purposeful expression of the one life, lived uniquely, but not personally. You are not the author of the story, nor even really a character in it. You are the silent, boundless awareness in which the entire, beautiful impersonal story is being told. Now we come to the practical pivot, the transformative hinge upon which all of this turns from theory into lived reality, listening. But this is not listening as the world understands it. This is not the straining of the personal mind to hear a new doctrine or to capture an inspiring sentiment. This is listening as a spiritual act, as the very mode of conscious union with the infinite. It is the complete yielding of the outer, seeking, calculating mind in order to become attuned to a different frequency altogether, the silent, ceaseless impartation of truth that emanates from the very core of being. The personal self cannot hear this. It is too busy speaking, planning, remembering, and fearing. It listens only for what confirms its own narrative or promises a personal reward. True listening is the death of that self-absorption and the birth of an entirely new faculty of perception. Consider the noise of your own internal dialogue. It is a constant commentary, a judge presiding over every moment. This is good. That is bad. I remember when I hoped that. What if? This is the static that drowns out the signal. It is the clamor of the separate self defending its territory. The act of spiritual listening begins with the simple, profound decision to stop. Not to stop the thoughts by force. That is just more noise, but to cease giving them your allegiance, to stop identifying as the speaker of this internal broadcast. You turn your attention away from the content of the thoughts and toward the space in which they occur. You listen not to the words, but to the silence that holds them. In the middle of a stressful day, with demands pressing in from all sides, instead of following the frantic chain of thought about how to manage it all, you pause. You become still. You listen beneath the panic. What you are listening for is not an answer in words, but a presence, a stability, a peace that is already there, waiting underneath the tumult like the deep, still floor of a stormy ocean. This listening is an act of surrender. It is saying, I do not know. I will be instructed. This listening is active in every moment, if you allow it. You are in a difficult conversation. The personal mind is instantly crafting rebuttals, defending its position, preparing its attack. The emotion of being wronged is shouting its case. But what if, in that very moment, you could listen not to the other person's words as a personal affront, but to the situation itself? What if you could listen for the truth of the moment beyond the egos involved? This listening would create a space. It would allow a wisdom to function that is not your personal cleverness. You might find words coming through you that heal rather than hurt, that clarify rather than confuse. The solution to the conflict was never in your prepared argument. It was in the silent, intelligent reality that emerges when the personal mind steps aside and listens. You face a decision, a crossroad in your career, in a relationship, in your life. The personal mind weighs pros and cons. It projects fears based on the past. It grasps at desires for the future. It is a committee of voices, each with its own agenda, and the result is confusion and anxiety. How do you listen here? You must quiet the committee. You must go into that inner quiet, that place of not knowing, and you must listen for a direction that feels not like a thought, but like a knowing. It has no words. It is a pull, an alignment, a sense of rightness that comes from a deeper center than the chattering mind. This is not intuition as a personal gift. It is the one intelligence guiding its own expression. You are listening for the next note in a melody that is being played by a larger composer. When you act from that listening, there is no regret. Even if the outcome appears difficult, for you acted from alignment with a reality beyond your limited understanding. Even in what you call prayer, this listening is the essence. So, called prayer is so often a monologue, a list of requests sent out from a sense of lack to a distant deity. True prayer is listening. It is going within into the sacred silence with no agenda, no petition. It is an open, receptive attention, a state of humble readiness to receive an impartation. You are not asking for things to change in the dream. You are asking to be shown the truth that dispels the dream. You listen, and in that listening, a transformation occurs not in circumstances, but in consciousness. A strength you did not concoct, a love you did not manufacture, a clarity you did not reason your way toward, is revealed as your native state. Your entire life becomes this practice of listening. You listen while washing the dishes, hearing the silence between the sounds. You listen in nature, not to the bird's song as a separate sound, but to the totality of the auditory field as a single holy vibration. You listen to your own body not as a critic, but as one would listen to a delicate instrument, hearing its needs without panic or personal drama. This listening is the gateway. It is how the impersonal, infinite reality makes itself known as your very own being. It is the end of seeking, because in the depth of listening, you find that what you were listening for is the listener itself. The seeker dissolves into the act of attention, and in that dissolution, you discover you are not a person trying to hear God. You are the very hearing, the very awareness in which the divine dialogue of existence is eternally unfolding. To listen in this way is to abandon the shoreline of the personal self and to swim in the ocean of direct, unmediated knowing. As this inner listening deepens, as the static of the personal self begins to fade, a magnificent and undeniable reality starts to disclose itself. It is not a new place you arrive at, but a kingdom you discover has always been present, right where you are, hidden in plain sight. We call it the inner kingdom, but that is a concession to language. for it is neither inner nor outer. It is the very substance and reality of all that is. It is the foundational consciousness, the I am, from which all things spring and in which all things have their being. You have spent a lifetime seeking power, security, love, and abundance in the external world, in other people, in institutions, in possessions, in achievements. You have knocked on 1,000 doors, begging for scraps of fulfillment from a universe you perceived as separate and often withholding. All of that seeking, all of that knocking, was a profound misunderstanding of address. The throne room, the treasury, the source of all supply, was never outside you. It is the very consciousness that reads these words. Consider your pursuit of security. You believe it lies in a number in a bank account, in a title, in a loyal relationship, in a strong body. And so you toil, you worry, you grasp, you protect. Yet, every one of those external anchors is inherently temporary, subject to the tides of change. The market can crash. The title can be lost. Relationships transform. The body ages. When security is sought externally, anxiety is its constant shadow. Now, shift the gaze entirely. The inner kingdom is a realm of absolute security because it is the only thing that is unchanging. It is the awareness itself, the silent witness that was present in your childhood, is present now, and will be present in your last breath. It cannot be threatened. It cannot be diminished. It is the rock of ages. When you abide as that, when you know yourself as that consciousness first, the need for external guarantees falls away. You engage with the world. You make practical plans. But you do so from a foundation of unshakable peace. You are no longer a beggar at the world's door. You are the emperor who has discovered his own domain. Observe the quest for love and companionship. The hunger for this is the deepest human ache. You look to another person to complete you, to make you feel whole, to give you a reason for being. This is the great romantic tragedy, for it places the responsibility for your wholeness in the hands of another, who is themselves seeking the same from you. It is a contract of mutual emptiness. The inner kingdom reveals the staggering truth that you are the source of the very love you seek. The love you crave is not an emotion to be received. It is the essential nature of the consciousness that you are. It is impersonal, infinite, and unconditioned. When you begin to abide in this knowing, a revolutionary change occurs in all your relationships. You no longer approach another person as a needy vessel seeking to be filled. You approach them as one center of consciousness, recognizing another. Love then becomes not something you get, but something you are, and therefore something you naturally express. You become a fountain, not a drain. The relationship is no longer a desperate search for wholeness, but a celebration of it. This kingdom is also the source of all true power. The world teaches you that power is the ability to exert your will over others or over circumstances. It is a brittle, fear-based thing, requiring constant defense and generating constant resistance. The power of the inner kingdom is of an entirely different order. It is the power of presence, of intelligent creativity, of grace. It is the power that allows the rose to bloom, the planets to orbit, and a healing insight to flash into the mind. You do not wield it, you surrender to it and let it wield you. When faced with a challenge that seems beyond your personal capacity, a creative block, a complex problem, a physical limitation, you do not try harder from the cramped quarters of the personal self. You retreat consciously into the inner kingdom. You become still. You listen. You relinquish the claim of personal authorship. And then, from that silent, fertile ground, an intelligence begins to move. An idea emerges. Energy flows where there was stagnation. A path appears where there was a wall. This is not your power. It is the power of the one life, functioning freely through an unblocked channel. Your daily life is the proving ground. The moment you feel lack, whether of time, money, energy, or ideas, that feeling is a siren call to turn within. It is not a signal to strive harder in the outer world, but to remember the kingdom. The feeling of insult or offense is an invitation to check your citizenship. Have you mistakenly identified as a vulnerable citizen of the outer world of egos, or do you remember you are the sovereign of an indestructible realm? Every anxiety, every fear, every longing is simply a forgotten soul trying to find its way back to the palace it never left. You do not build this kingdom. You do not earn it. You acknowledge it. You consciously take up residence within it, and from that vantage point, you watch the outer world of form rearrange itself in harmony with the truth of your being. The supply for every need is here. The love for every loneliness is here. The strength for every burden is here. It has always been here, awaiting only your recognition. Your royal return from the exile of separation to the throne of your own eternal consciousness. And from this recognition of the inner kingdom, from this abiding in the source, there flows one final, crowning realization, the ultimate truth that unravels the last thread of the personal struggle, grace as the only power. All your striving, all your efforts to be good, to be spiritual, to be successful, to be healed, have been exercises in personal will. You have believed that by the sweat of your brow and the force of your determination, you could reshape reality to your liking, that you could wrestle peace from chaos, wholeness from brokenness, and light from darkness. This belief in personal will is the last and most subtle form of the separate self, the final illusion that you are the doer. It is the cause of exhaustion, frustration, and the bitter taste of failure, for it pits a tiny, imagined entity against the infinite movement of life itself. Grace is the understanding that there is no such battle, because there is only one power operating, one will being done, one intelligence unfolding, and it is not yours. It is the benevolent, spontaneous, and perfect activity of the one divine consciousness expressing itself as the universe. Your only role is to get out of the way and let it. Consider the most persistent problem in your life, the one you have fought against for years, a chronic anxiety, a broken relationship, a financial lack, a recurring pain. You have analyzed it, You have strategized against it. You have begged for strength to overcome it. This is the operation of personal will. It is you, as a separate self, declaring war on a circumstance, which only confirms the reality of both the fighter and the foe. The moment you cease that war, the moment you surrender the entire problem, not to apathy, but to a higher intelligence, you invite grace. This is not passive resignation. It is active trust in a power that knows the solution you cannot conceive. You stop trying to fix the person you think you are. You turn within to the kingdom, and you simply acknowledge, I of myself can do nothing. Let thy will be done. Then you watch. You may be led to take an action you never considered. A person may call out of the blue. An insight may dawn that redefines the entire problem, revealing it was never a problem at all. The circumstance may remain, but your relationship to it is transformed by a peace that defies understanding. This is grace in operation. It does not always change the picture on the screen. It changes the light by which you see it. Think of the effort you expend trying to be a better person, more patient, more loving, less judgmental. You set your will against your own nature and inevitably fail, leading to guilt and renewed striving. This is the treadmill of self-improvement. Grace approaches this from the opposite direction. It does not try to reform the person. It reveals that the person, with all its flaws, is not the ultimate reality. When you cease the project of self-reform and instead abide in the silent presence, something miraculous occurs. A patience that is not your own begins to surface. A compassion you did not manufacture flows through you. It is not you being good. It is the goodness of life itself expressing through a cleared channel. The fruit of the Spirit is not achieved by labor. It is grown by grace when you stop interfering with the soil and the sun. Even in practical daily action, grace is the only true power. You have an important presentation to give. Personal will practices frantically, worries about every word, fears the judgment of the audience, and tries to project a perfect image. The result is stiffness and anxiety. Grace operates differently. You prepare, yes, but then you surrender the outcome. You go into that meeting not as a separate performer, but as a transparency. You become quiet inside and you listen. The words come, but they feel given. A spontaneity and authority are present that you cannot claim as your own. The right person asks the perfect question. The connection in the room becomes palpable. This is not your success. It is the success of the intelligence that arranged the atoms in the room and the thoughts in the mind. Your action was an instrument played by a greater musician. This is the final surrender, the release of the belief that you are the architect of your life. Your life is being lived. The intelligence that spins galaxies and guides the migration of birds is the same intelligence that breathes your breath and beats your heart. To align with grace is to align with this current. It is to stop paddling frantically upstream and to let the river carry you. Your struggles, your sins, your failures, they were never obstacles to this grace. They were calls for it. The moment of your greatest helplessness is the moment most ripe for its intervention. For it is when the personal will finally exhaust itself and cries out. You do not earn grace by being worthy. You accept it by being empty. You empty yourself of the illusion of personal power, and the infinite power floods in, not to empower the person, but to dissolve it in the radiance of its own being. From this point, life is no longer something you manage. It is something you witness with awe and gratitude as the one divine actor performs the perfect play, with you not as the anxious star, but as the very stage, the audience, and the applause. All that is required is the surrender of the director's chair, and the whole universe rushes in to fill the space with a harmony so profound that the very question of power becomes obsolete.